there is a path back towards the good health that you dream about having again, but kind of worry that you may never attain that level of health again. And in this short video, I'm going to help you understand what I think is a key concept that will help you reverse many chronic medical conditions and realize a body fat percentage and a level of overall health that you might never have even dreamed you could attain again. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician, and in this video we're going to be talking about the concept of the carbohydrate knob. Now, this sounds kind of silly and simple, but I think if you'll listen to this video until the end, you'll gain a new understanding of how to look at your diet. And it'll help you understand just how important your diet is when it comes to your overall health and improving it. Now, hopefully, if you've watched one of my previous videos, you know that there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. All carbohydrates are optional, even the ones full of phytonutrients. You don't ever need to eat another carbohydrate for the rest of your life, and you'll be very healthy and you'll do very well. But many of us love carbohydrates. Some of us are addicted to them. I have another video to help you with that. But some of us really like to include some carbohydrates, and we believe in our heart of hearts that some of these more naturally occurring organic non-GMO carbohydrates may even be healthy and good for us. And that's okay, because this theory of the carbohydrate knob allows you to indulge in some level of carbohydrate ingestion without guilt and without fear, and always retaining the power that if you so choose, you can turn down the carbohydrate knob and see what that does to your overall health. Now, if you're working on reversing chronic medical conditions like obesity, overweight, morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, hyperinsulinemia, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, or fatty liver disease, then the carbohydrate knob concept is probably going to be the most powerful concept that you can use to improve your health and reverse those chronic conditions. So let's break this down. So I think that a proper human diet never includes more than 100 grams of total carbohydrates, all coming from real, natural, whole food, one ingredient carbohydrate foods. Some examples of these would be broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, collards, turnip greens, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. These are real carbohydrates that are not made in a chemical factory, that are not processed and packaged in plastic and cardboard boxes. These are things that actually grow in the dirt. Those are the carbohydrates that I want you to always focus on eating if you're going to eat any carbohydrates at all. So I'm going to give you several examples of how to determine where your carbohydrate knob should be adjusted. And I'm going to do that by giving you some case examples, okay? So case number one is a 20-year-old, male or female, doesn't matter. They're slender, they're overall healthy. They went to the doctor, they got all their lab work checked, and they're metabolically very healthy. So this person could eat, they could turn their carbohydrate knob up to 100 total grams a day. And so they would enjoy all the fat and protein that they wanted, and they could eat up to 100 total grams of carbohydrates a day and not have any untoward effects on their waistline or on their overall metabolic health. So for many of you, turning down your current carbohydrate knob, which may be currently pegged out at the maximum. Some people, if you'll download an app and you'll just track your carbohydrates for a few days, you'll find that you're eating 200, 250, 350 total grams of carbohydrates a day. There is no world where eating that many carbohydrates for a human being is ever healthy or ever gives you optimal health. That's too many carbohydrates for every human being. So here, let's do example number two. What if we have someone who's 35 years old, they're a little bit overweight, not bad, and they go see their doctor and their C-peptide and fasting insulin are a little bit high, but their A1C is still normal. So they have the very earliest stages of metabolic syndrome or pre-diabetes. This person should probably turn down their carbohydrate intake knob down to 50 total grams a day if they want to reverse these very earliest signs of metabolic disease. And so they would still eat all the fatty meat that they could eat, all the eggs, they would eat all the fat and protein that is part of a proper human diet, but they wouldn't eat as many carbohydrates. They would turn that knob down to 50 and they would max out at 50 total grams a day. Now, let's look at example 3. Someone who, like me a few years back, was 40 pounds overweight, pre-diabetic, had lots of chronic medical conditions starting to rear their ugly head. This person, in order to regain and reclaim their health, should turn down the carbohydrate intake knob to 20 total grams a day. And this is the carbohydrate intake that you'll hear people when they're talking about a ketogenic diet. That's what that is. Most adults are going to be in ketosis for the majority of every day if they limit their total carbohydrate intake to 20 grams a day or less. Now, there are some reindeer games being played with carbohydrates, and this is another great example of how the carbohydrate intake knob can help you avoid falling prey to people out there who are trying to make a profit. That's the American way, right? You got to make a profit. But many people out there who make food are realizing that the ketogenic diet, the low-carb diet, is becoming very, very popular. And so they are trying to produce keto products, and they'll put keto in boxcar size letters on the front of the package. But the problem is they want to count net carbs, not total carbs. And when you do that, you can start adding things to your product like oat fiber, chicory fiber, and all these other things that are soluble fibers, but they get to technically say they don't count as carbohydrates. So if you look on the box and it says only 3 grams of net carbs on the front, if you flip it over, you'll find on the back, oh my God, it's got 15 or 20 grams of total carbohydrates. And for some of us, the net carbs may be fine to count, but for others of us who are quite metabolically ill, overweight, pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, you need to count total carbs, my friend. If you ever want to see the success that you're dreaming of, net carbs is not your friend. I'll give you a quick example. I had a friend who was trying to eat a ketogenic diet, but she noticed very often she wasn't in ketosis and she was not making any progress towards any of her health improvement goals, including weight loss and reducing her C-peptide back to normal levels. And so she was eating under 20 grams a day of net carbs. And she thought, I'm just going to do some math here. And so she actually tracked eating under 20 grams of net carbs. How many total grams of carbs was she eating a day? Turns out she was eating over 100 grams of total carbs on this less than 20 net. So please count total carbs if you're really serious about reclaiming your health. Now there's one more notch on the carbohydrate knob that some of us, including me, have to turn it down to in order to realize their best health. And that's as close to 0 grams of carbohydrates a day as you can get. Now, some of us who are teetotalers, when they realize how powerful the carbohydrate knob is, they're going to crank it down to 0 right off the bat. And for some people, this may be fine. There's absolutely no danger in doing this unless you're taking injectable insulin or you're taking diabetes medications that work by raising your insulin. Then you may develop some low glucose problems by doing that too quickly. But everyone can take charge of their carbohydrate intake knob, including you, and everyone can turn it down at a rate that is perfect for their personality, for their current metabolism, for their current degree of metabolic disease. You can be in charge of your carbohydrate knob, no matter what your doctor says, no matter what your dietitian says, no matter what that influencer on YouTube said. You can take charge of your carbohydrate intake knob. And to the degree that you take charge of it, and to the degree that you actually put it where it needs to be for your current status, you will realize a degree of health improvement that you may never have dreamed of. You may have to buy all new clothes. You may have to have your ring resized. You may have to buy new shoes because they're now too big and floppy on your skinnier feet. You may have to stop several prescription medications for diabetes, prediabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver. You may not need those medications anymore. So realize that if you're trying to eat a low carb or a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, the carbohydrate intake is the most important macronutrient. Lots of gurus out there get all tore up about how much protein you're eating or how much fat you're eating. The vast majority of human beings on the planet, including you, is going to do best when you understand that the most important macronutrient of all is your carbohydrate intake, your total carb intake. And when you turn it down to the level it needs to be, it's not going to matter nearly so much if you hit your fat macro or if you're hitting your protein macro. You're just going to eat lots of fatty meat and eggs so that until you're satiated, and you're going to know you're getting enough protein and enough fat because you're eating a proper human diet. And then you're going to dial down your carbohydrate intake to where it needs to be for you to get the results you're looking for, perhaps currently just dreaming of. But I promise you, your dream can become a reality when you realize the power of the carbohydrate knob and when you turn it down where it needs to be for you. Now, let's take me as an example. I used to be morbidly obese, pre-diabetic, and had a long list of metabolic diseases that I was beginning to suffer from back in my 30s. I turned down the carbohydrate intake knob to 100 total grams a day with a paleo diet, had some success, did pretty good. But after a few years of that, I thought, I want to go further. And so I turned it down to 50. And I started immediately to lose weight and feel better and do better. Reversed my prediabetes, my heartburn got better, my rosacea got better. And then I thought, I'm going to go to the next level. I'm going to turn it down to 20 total grams of carbs a day. And I realized then in my late 40s, I'm healthier now than I was in my earlier 30s. But I was still holding some extra weight and I was still having some chronic inflammation, much better, but not where I wanted to be. So I turned the carbohydrate intake knob down to as close to zero as I could get it. And that's what you call a carnivore diet. I eat meat, lots of fatty meat, lots of eggs, a little bit of cheese, and that was my diet. And on that diet, for me personally, being as close to zero carbs as I could get, that's where I have realized my best health. And I'm currently at 52 years of age, almost 53. I am healthier now. I feel better now. I have more energy now than I did in my early 30s. And I don't know if all 50-year-olds can say that or not. But if you would like to be able to say that, then you've got to take charge of your carbohydrate knob and you've got to turn it down where it needs to be for you, whether that's 100, whether that's 50, 20, or as close to zero as you can get it. That's the magic. That's the magic of keto. You've seen your friends just fall away to nothing. You've seen people who were severe type 2 diabetics reverse that. You've seen friends with fatty liver disease completely reverse it with a keto diet. This is the magic of keto and carnivore, is turning down the carbohydrate intake. When you start to look at low carb, keto, ketovore, carnivore diets like this, you realize that those four terms, you don't have to have a PhD in human physiology in order to tease out what they mean. Low carb is under 100 total grams or under 50. Keto's under 20. Ketovore is under 10 total grams a day. And carnivore is as close to zero as you can get it. You don't have to track all your macros. You don't have to take pictures of your foods. You don't have to play all these games that gurus out there try to get you to play so to make themselves feel more important. You just have to take charge of one thing, your carbohydrate intake knob, and everything else is going to fall into place. I hope this video helped a lot. If you have specific questions about your medications, your medical conditions, your nutrition, and you'd like to ask me personally, then consider becoming a patron on patreon.com. There's a link down in the show notes. It's a super quick sign up, and you will have access to me 24/7 when you have a question that you can't find the answer to anywhere else. This is Dr. Barry. I'll see you next time.